Okay, we are now recording for Temperance. That's
I
a per-
yeah, I think that for me the temperance card is she always like 20 years ago she would pop up in readings, and my friend who would do readings, tarot readings for me, always basically said, he's like, he says, I think you are the temperance card. And I'm like, you've got to be nuts. I'm I don't embody the temper, whatever, right? But I think what he was basically trying to say to me is that I'm not really that sort of constant balance, or, that, but it's that idea that I need to be reminded of the balance and the moderation, and um, allowing myself to keep those things in mind, not to let something tip too far one or the other way. Um, and I think that, as I've gotten older, I wouldn't say that I've necessarily mellowed out more, but what I've gotten as I've gotten older, I think what's become clear for me is how necessary it is to be able to incorporate those concepts and to practice the concepts of temperance. Um, so that to me is really very, very it's always an important reminder. It seems like I was listening to a couple of I listened to the tarot lady, Teresa Russell. Is it Russell? Is that right?
Teresa Reed.
Teresa Reed. Thank you. Pardon me. I know that was wrong. I listened to her episode on temperance, and it was one of the briefer ones. She normally, well, I guess they all run about 5 to 7 minutes, right? So I was listening to that one earlier, and then I watched and listened to Papa Squirrel with the one that I posted as well. And he goes more into the esoterica and the symbology behind the card. And I think that when we have our conversation about the various different aspects and of this card, I'm really going to be really curious. I've always been fascinated by two things in this card. One, it's supposed to be Michael the Archangel. Is that right?
Yes.
Michael
Yes.
the Archangel.
Mhm.
Well, that's what she subscribes to, she said.
Right. She believes that it's Michael the Archangel. And then so that's one thing that I think is really interesting. And I just love Michael the Archangel personally. But then she does the two things that really have always sort of fascinated me when I've worked with the temperance card or it comes in a reading is Michael's toes dipped in the water. He's standing on land and then he's got those toes sort of dipped in the water. And then always that sort of perfect catch, pouring from one goblet to the other, the fluid that pours from one to the other. I always am really sort of, I don't know why exactly I'm so mesmerized by those two things, but with his toe dipped in the water that way, it always reminds me of, when you dip your own toe in the water, that saying, just dip your toe in the water, it really is about that sort of cautious approach, that you're not going to sort of jump in on the deep end, but that you're going to take a kind of measured approach to eventually. I know that's not necessarily what it means symbolically, right? So the idea that the water is, of course, a kind of unconscious, right, is what I've been what I've heard on the recordings. I didn't get to do much reading for this preparation for today, unfortunately, but so there's that, and of course the conscious that's representative of the land, the dry land. And then so it's that thing, that particular idea of having a measured approach, moving through not all things maybe, but many things, with that kind of a mindset and that kind of an attitude, especially after the experience of the death part, right? When you're coming up and out and transitioning from that into this next state, which for me, I think is rather than rushing off to the next thing, right? Because am I remembering this correctly? The card after Temperance is
The devil.
the devil card, right? So it's an interesting progression. And that's always kind of, and then it's the devil, and then it's the tower, and then it's, and then you get to the star, right? So I think it's an interesting sequence of concepts that occur after death, which is take this sort of measured balance. I'm going to use the word cautious, but I don't necessarily mean afraid, right? I don't mean cautious like people are afraid, but I mean cautious like it's okay to be aware of all of the things that are contributing to the situation. That's what I mean by cautious, and to be hesitant in a good way, right? So what is the saying about fools rushing in? Do you guys remember the rest of that?
Angels
Fools
fear,
rushing
where
in,
angels fear to tread.
where angels fear to tread.
Mhm.
Do y'all hear the echo?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that's me. Is that me? Yep.
I don't,
Let me log off and let me log back on. This happened last time too. I'm so sorry. I'll be right back, guys.
No, I did the same thing earlier.
I don't know what's going on. All right, I'll be right back.
Nut, what are you doing?
Are we still in the middle, Kurt? Right in the middle?
We're at 14, so we're at the end of the second series of 7 cards.
Because I'm at the point where it says, oh no. Now it's me too.
Yeah, you're echoing, but I'm echoing as well. Oh no.
Oh, you are.
I'm going to try something. I'm going to mute myself and see if you all are echoing that.
Are we echoing now? No echo.
Let me see.
No.
No echo.
No echo. Angel?
What
I don't
about
think-
now?
Yeah.
What about now? So it is mine. So let me, hold on. I know how to fix it. Hold on.
So, oh.
Now we're sounding like a weird fun house or something.
Could be no.
There's no echo, I don't think. Nope.
Hello?
Y'all sound good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
quick question. It says, when we pass through the trials of the second level of the major arcana, we discover our own divine nature. Can someone make that make sense to me as to where we are? Like, is this the finish of the second level?
So, and
And
apparently,
in Temperance that we find our divine nature?
there's still an echo, even though I'm using the microphone and headset, which I thought would cure it. No, the thing with that is that's related to Golden Dawn symbology and the whole Golden Dawn system, because the idea is that you're supposed to journey up the middle pillar of the tree of life, and in the tarot that consists of high priestess, temperance, and the world. So you're supposed to go up the middle pillar to ultimately discover, to have a conversation, a meeting, an encounter with one's holy guardian angel. And in so doing, you commit yourself to the quote unquote great work, which is this great magical work that any individual person is supposed to be taking part in. So the angel pictured in both the Lover's card and in they're two different angels, but in a sense they're different faces of the holy guardian angel, right? So the idea is that through the temperance card, through the temperance experience, one has that encounter. It's the doorway to that encounter with the holy guardian angel, right? So that's that idea. It's from Golden Dawn.
All right, well, I'll let that simmer because I'm not grasping that yet, but okay.
In sort of more sort of like sympathetic magic circles, kind of, and less ceremonial magic, you would equate that to connecting with your spirit guides, right? It's
Right.
that kind of thing.
And what is she talking about second level again of major arcana?
So that's when if you line all the cards up, you have a row of 7, and then underneath is the second row of 7, and that the temperance card is the as card number 14. It's the end of that second row of 7.
Okay.
So that's what that end card, that's what she means by the second line.
So it's in temperance that we discover our own divine nature.
Yeah, it's also related to, at least according to Barbara Moore, it's related to the second degree. Actually, it's more than just Barbara Moore. It was also somebody else I read, but it's related to the second degree initiation in traditional Wicca and British traditional Wicca, as well as in Druid traditions.
The second initiation?
Yeah. The third being actual priestess level.
Okay. I'm just reading this, and again, I apologize for not being able to be as prepared for this evening as I would normally like to be. But just sort of reading these opening sentences in the Tarot Wisdom, where Rachel Pollack says that it's not her favorite card. She doesn't dislike it. She just doesn't find it exciting. I'm like, is it kind of boring? This balance and calm, kind of boring?
So to me, I have the opposite reaction
Mm-hmm.
because this is such a trying place for me to be.
Yeah.
So it's far from boring because God, it's so hard.
Well, it's actually not boring because you're actually in a state of anticipation, because it's very much John Keats's Ode on a Grecian Urn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at John Keats's Ode on a Grecian Urn, he admires the figures on the Grecian urn because they're frozen in time in this in the act of motion, right? They're frozen amid the motion, and so they're never gonna have the completion of that motion. So they're never gonna have the ultimate elation or letdown, right? You know, they're always going to have that anticipation, and oftentimes the anticipation is better than the thing. I mean, any of us who've had bad sex know what that's like, right? You know, you think it's going to be really great, and then, oh damn. Of course, as a guy, you know, guys never have ultimately terrible sex because guy sex is pretty simple. I mean, you know, but anyway.
Well, but then if we think of it that way, as that anticipation place better than the thing, That reminds me of the Hanged Man, no?
It's similar, except that the temperance. So temperance is actually a state of. So the idea behind temperance is really an analogy would be the state of samadhi, or the state of balance, such that you can be in this state and yet still be active.
Mhm.
And I think it was in I think it was Pollock who said that. I read a bunch of stuff, but I think it was Pollock who brought out that she had a friend who went to Thailand, and and joined a Buddhist temple, and he reached what he felt was like was like enlightenment, and he was in this beautiful state for months and months and months, and then he thought, well, I really miss my friends back in the States and whatever, and so he goes to Amsterdam, and within 2 weeks he's doing everything there is to do in Amsterdam, which is drugs and
Which is
sex and rock and
everything,
roll.
yeah, exactly.
And she said that he told her that when he when that last bit of enlightenment left him, he heard this voice. There's something went off in his head that said "gotcha," right? And that "gotcha" is the devil, right? That "gotcha" is, ooh, you've dropped back down, And so the temperance is this state of balance, but it's also this understanding that we can't just say, oh, we've achieved this balance and we can go on, right? It's that we have to have sadhana, we have to have spiritual practice, right? We have to have practice. We have to keep doing the work, right? You can't just say, oh, it's done. We have to keep doing the work. We have to keep maintaining the balance, right? So in a lot of the cards, so in the cards, she or he is pouring the water or whatever,
Right.
or we'll see in a couple of cards juggling spheres or doing something, and that represents keeping everything in motion, right? So temperance is not like the hangman, everything is static. Temperance is not
Okay.
static, but temperance is balanced.
So I think of it then, just because I agree that balance is not a passive state. Balance is a very active state. And so part of it is that I'll never forget this example that was given about years ago. It was an undergrad or graduate student. I don't remember when and where. Well, I remember where, but I don't remember exactly when. But this idea that ballerinas, when they balance on their point, that they look as if it's effortless, when in fact it's not. It's years of studied practice to be able to maintain their weight on their point and to make it look like it's effortless. And I think that metaphor always resonated with me, not because I took ballet when I was a kid, but I never got onto point, right? So it was this thing where I remember the stories about how does one initiate onto point, right? The bloody toes, all of the pain, all of this kind of stuff that comes with the practice ultimately of being able to maintain being on point. So I think you're right. I believe that it is very much an active state. And I'll tell you where the uninteresting might be the illusion around temperance might come from. And I think it's just that. Those days in Amsterdam, right? Where you have all of this excitement, and to come down from that excitement into a place that's more balanced and potentially more healthy, right? And what I mean by that is that having worked with therapists before, especially in family dynamics that are really very crisis driven, they're sort of like tornadic. They're like constantly, people constantly have to be in crisis or have to create a crisis because it feels most comfortable to them. And so I grew up in a household that was similar to this. My mother, I love her dearly, but that was where she felt most comfortable, right? Her skill set, she would be able to kind of get them, she would be able to use those skill sets in a time when things were just sort of chaotic. But growing up in that kind of environment meant that unknowingly we sort of developed that kind of as well. And so when I went into and worked with a therapist, that was one of the things we talked about, because I was like, I don't know how to not, you know, she's like, your life's going to be boring. Right. So she's like, you're like, yeah, your life's going to be boring for a little while, but you're going to have peace. That's the payoff. You get to have peace. And so it was one of those things where I had to sit back and really kind of reflect on that, because I did want peace, but I don't know that I necessarily wanted what I perceived to be as boring. Right. And so I did appreciate that the person I was working with at the time was very honest with me and said, yeah, it's going to feel that way at first, but then there will be a point at which that will become familiar,
The new normal.
And welcomed, right? And I gotta say, it was tough. It took a good long while for me to sort of spend, move in, struggle through. But at the end of the day, at the end of all of that, the peace was worth the discomfort that I went through in order to be able to have that. And it wasn't easy. And it's not, again, ballerinas have to come off their point at some point, right? At some time, you do that as well. And so that would happen. And so it's always about remembering that the balance is always going to be active. It's always going to be active. Yeah. So that's what I think of when it's that place, that transition of always this sort of hyper or this high activity to this more subdued, calm. You can hear yourself think clearly, right? I'm thinking of maybe meditative moments, right? Where you're in meditation. Same thing with meditation, right? When I first started meditating, I was like, how does anybody do this?
I think that I'm still like that, and I've been doing meditation for a long time. So of course, it's said, and Bhagavad Purana says that in Kali Yuga, which is the current age that we live in, it's impossible to actually control the mind.
That's the lesson you learn, right? I mean, I think that's the misperception and misconception.
But
comes with that.
So I think that your friend was prophetic in one sense, because the Temperance card is the card of Sagittarius, and you're being a triple Sagittarius. That's pretty which we get when we get into the esoteric nature of the card. We get into the Sagittarius aspects of it. So.
It's an appropriate card for that, I think, because there isn't a single Sagittarius person that I don't know who doesn't have this kind of struggle with that, right? So yeah. Anyway.
And the Temperance card is said to be the energy of the Temperance card is the tension on the bowstring right before the bowstring is released.
Hold on, say that one more time.
The tension on the bowstring right before the bowstring is released.
What? The
bowstring.
I don't get that word.
Like, are you talking
As
about
in,
the Sagittarian?
Bowstring.
Yes.
Bowstring?
Yeah.
Or like archery? What are we talking?
Correct. Archery.
Okay, now say it again.
The tension, the energy of the Temperance card is the tension on the bowstring right before the string is released. So right before you shoot the bow, right before you loose the arrow, right?
Oh.
Okay, I hold that thought right there. I want to get that down. So Temperance.
Just to pull back that
tension, bowstring,
and to hold it in place so that way you can aim before you release.
Right before release.
That's a tremendous amount of strength
and focus.
Yep.
And balance.
So I'm getting a lot of focus out of that.
Mhm.
Yes.
Which
And
I
see the
didn't
thing,
have yesterday. Yeah.
Well,
and
and
and,
you know,
and
think about a beginner. Think about a beginner who's doing this for the first time.
well,
I would be afraid they'd have to give me those arrows that have like this, you know, the flat sticky end. You know, that
mhm.
there would no point, you know, flat sticky end, because just to be able to develop the strength to pull that back and to release it, to find focus
But
and
there, yeah,
takes a
there's
long.
also tremendous hope associated with the card as well, because the card is also associated with not only the archer's bow, but the rainbow, right?
Oh,
Is an association with the temperance card, which we see in a lot of the cards. And that, of course, the biblical implication there is the promise of hope, the promise that your world will not be destroyed in the same way that it was with the death card,
yeah.
right? It's not that you'll never face danger again, but that when you achieve the temperance, it's kind of like, okay, now you understand where you came from in this death experience, and so now you don't have to repeat that, right? And also, and that's where it's associated with the goddess Iris, which is why you have irises in the card also. The Greek goddess Iris, who is basically the female version of Mercury. Um, so what you have is, so Pollock talks about, of course, she's all about the numbers on the cards, right? So she talks about that you can take 1, 4, 14, 1, 4, and add the 1 and the 4 together and get 5. So that relates the temperance card to the Hierophant. And so that actually what you have is you have the temperance card is the female or the feminine or the goddess energy version of the Hierophant. So remember, the Hierophant was all about tradition and all about, establishment and all of that. Temperance is the female version, right? And that's actually really interesting, because I think I mentioned this last week. One of the Zoom classes that I attend is a scripture study, and I happen to be in it with like a bunch of people who happen to be ordained ministers or who happen to have but one of the things they were talking about was that the masculine approach to reaching the divine is traditional meditation, right? We're going to shut everything out and we're going to, we're just, whereas the female approach is this, we're going to juggle everything and make it look, a breeze, right?
Effortless.
You're going to do that. We're going to be on our points. We're going to be on our points. Yeah, we're going to be the ballerina on our points, right? In other words, we're going to be active. We're going to be seeking the divine. We're going to be seeking that realization in activity, which is ultimately what the temperance card is saying in a way. Um, and so it is very feminine in that regard. Even though Sagittarius is a quote unquote masculine sign, but still,
And
it's the
Hierophant was
balance.
tradition. And what was the other thing you said?
Tradition, it tends to be very it tends to be associated with masculinity. So a lot of decks, remember when we did the Hierophant, the card that we all liked was from the Light Seers,
Uh-huh.
because it was, if you remember on that card, it had the stairway and it had the
Like
and it had the opening to the divine on the top. So basically in that deck, the Hierophant was simply pointing the way. But in a lot of decks, like Robin Wood, for example, the Hierophant was very negative, because it was like, here's your dogma and you have to abide by this dogma, and you have to do things this way, and there's like one correct way to do things, and so on and so forth. Whereas temperance does not have that same implication. It does have, so one of the things that Pollock gets into with regard to Archangel Michael and why she likes to associate temperance with Michael is that Michael means that It means nuts barking at somebody outside. It means Michael means one like unto God, right? Michael literally means one like unto God. So so the idea is that through temperance we can see our divine qualities, right? We can see, we can touch that divine nature within us when we approach this, try to even try to approach this temperate state, right? Because we get in the idea of sankalpa, or this idea of intention. So even when we have the intention of trying to approach this temperate state, it puts us in that realm. Pollock talks about how she really wasn't feeling temperance at all, but so but she got the card in a reading, and so what she started doing was she started meditating on the card. Like every chance she got, she started envisioning the card. She started, just envisioning the card, thinking about the card and all that. And eventually, she started getting into that state of temperance
Mhm.
by using the card itself as a meditation. And so even with that intention of trying to achieve that temperance, she was able to do that. She was able to enter into that state. Um,
I
and
love that
that's
as a
not,
practice.
yeah.
That's really lovely practice because you can pull
Thank you.
a card from a deck. So here
Mhm.
is the
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, that's
this
Hanson Roberts, right?
yes, this is Hanson Roberts. And if you'll notice, you were talking about sort of the feminine qualities, and there are feminine lines all within this particular card. And so but I love the notion of taking a card and meditating on it, and then ultimately sort of working with the energy that it represents, right?
Mhm.
Well, when we chant mantra, that's what we're doing too. We're taking that mantra is coming into our aura, right? It's coming into our being and reordering stuff, reordering things,
Yeah,
you
re-
know.
rearranging that which needs to be.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
the Nine
yeah.
of Swords is a card that I pulled earlier in the week, and it was definitely an appropriate card. I was worried about a thing that is a sort of a chronic worry for me, right? So I have moments where I've worked with it and it's gotten better, and then um, I talked a little bit before about having generalized anxiety. And so it can be anything, right? Really. But this was sort of a traditional kind of one, a chronic piece. And so when I shuffled and pulled a card, the Nine of Swords came out. And I thought to myself, how appropriate for what I am in the state that I am right now, as that worry had resurfaced once again. And I put it on my altar. And I left it there as that reminder that says there you can release that, right? You can make a deliberate conscious choice to release that. And if you release it, fill it with something else, right? Because you create a void once you release something, fill it with something else. I think that's that rearrangement you're talking about. What is that rearrangement going to fill in that space that has just been unoccupied by this other thing? But I love that as a practice, and I would say that probably, oh gosh, over 20 plus years ago, when I was starting to work with tarot, it's 25 years. Was it 25 or 26 years ago? And I remember coming across not just one but several books that were talking about using tarot in spellcraft, right? Using tarot in spellcraft, and having done that myself, I can tell you it's incredibly powerful, right? It's incredibly powerful because I think that each card is a type of meditation
Right.
if you allow it to be. But so I love that. And I just wanted to underscore that. So this idea of using this as a kind of meditation, and you don't even have to just draw the card like you picked it the way we pick cards, but you can even seek the card out, right? Or I've done, pick a card, not pick a card, not pick a card, but when I've selected my own either 1 card or 3 card draw, and I'm like, whoa, that just really hit, then that usually will end up in my altar as a reminder, right? Because at least minimally what I do is my altar is a place where I go and I burn my incense and I light my candles, and I have, not always, but I try to lean into a daily practice of devotion, right? So it allows me to see it every day. Some people will stick it in their bathroom, their vanity, so they can see that every day. But I just love that. I just wanted to, like I said, underscore it.
Tarot is used very, very frequently in as path working in Kabbalah. Like that's pretty much what's used.
Is it tarot?
So yeah.
I haven't studied Kabbalah much, so I didn't realize that was.
Oh yeah, that's the whole point of putting the Hebrew letters on the cards. And it's
Yeah, because of
very much an integral part of path working in at least in the esoteric tradition, the Western esoteric traditions. The idea is that if you meditate upon a particular card, like you're talking about, what you're doing is you're drawing in the energy of that particular path and the emanations associated with it.
So when things are particularly chaotic, so like, sorry, still munching on dinner. So during the snowstorms, Snowmageddon, right? When things were in a place where it was difficult for many of us to maintain a kind of balanced state, this might have been a good card potentially to, place on my altar or something like that. Or any place or any time when a particular life event, I think of work often, there were many times where I'm thinking, how lovely would it have been? It's okay. Reminder, learning the lesson now. How lovely would it have been to have this on my altar? Or a color photo of it. So if I don't want to actually put my tarot card and tape it to my mirror in my bathroom, I don't think I want to do that. But what I might do is I might, if I have a color printer, copy all of those and run a print of those, and then you can tape that to your mirror or something like that.
We have our galleries too. You can do all kinds of stuff with that. You can print those out, and
Yeah, you could just use the picture of one as your wallpaper on your lock screen. So that for that week where you change it like once a week or every 2 weeks or whatever.
That's a great way to do.
That's what I was thinking too, CJ. Yeah, I like that.
Because then every time you look at your phone, you have to, even if it's for a split second, you still have to meditate on that card.
Absolutely. See, I think that's a beautiful, that's that portable.
Like even without the effort, that ballerina way of meditation on the card.
I love that.
Where it looks like there's no effort, like it's just automatically there.
So what I've been kind of sort of faced with the past few weeks, and what I really think that this card is speaking to, is the idea of staying on the path. It's like, I make mistakes constantly in my spiritual practice and in anything like, but it's like, you just have to keep going. It's like the alternative is to do nothing.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not what, and that's not juggling that's not pouring the water from vessel to vessel. That's not doing that.
There's the other decks that I pulled, and I love it that there's the actual physical road in this one. Of course, this is more Rider-Waite
Oh yeah.
influence, right? So you see that road, the road that you've walked or the road you will walk kind of thing. But in the other cards that I have, now this is of course is the Kauai tarot. It just has your, and we've seen of course the balance in other, we've seen these scales, balance scales.
And there is a relationship between the Temperance card and the Justice card that I read about. Justice card tends to be more intellectual,
Mhm.
and so whereas the Temperance card is literally tempered. It's literally it's justice tempered with compassion. You know, so again, it's a more feminine approach, if you will, to justice, right? In a way. I don't know, I'm probably way oversimplifying, but there is a relationship
I
between
think that's,
temperance and justice.
oh, well, that there's scales
Yeah.
in both of those. Do we see scales anywhere else?
Where
Yes.
do we see scales in Temperance? Are we seeing scales in Temperance?
Well, this,
There's
you're
the
you
notion of
had stepped
balance.
away. This is the Kauai tarot, and this is
Oh,
the scales here. And
Yeah.
that's we were talking about that kind of, where else do we see the scales? We see them, that's why.
There are scales in a couple of the minor arcana also, I believe. In like the Two of Pentacles, for example, you have that notion of balance there.
right.
It's not scales, but you have that notion of,
Well, this is what you're seeing in the light seers. You probably
Yeah.
have it already in your
Mhm.
gallery. You probably usually include light
Let's see
seers.
what he's got there. Yeah, what he's got there is closer to the Two of Pentacles or the Two of Discs
Yeah,
in most decks, where it's got the two. Yeah.
but he has
Yeah.
the angelic wings, and we'll get to this. We don't have to spend a whole lot of time
Hmm.
on this, but there's that. And then
Yeah.
this is my guardian. This is my guardian tarot, which uses tree imagery in all of them. I mean, there's a glare. Sorry about it.
Oh, that's neat.
But looking at that, and I just haven't even I can't wait in the summer. I'm just going to sit down and just spend so much time with this deck because it's absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. And I feel like every time I work with it, I feel like I'm literally like communing with tree, the tree energy. And I love that. I just love it. It's a beautiful deck. Okay, and so this is the last one. I don't think this is in your gallery, Kurt. This is from.
It's not, but you showed it to us.
Did I show that to you last time?
I love that. No,
Yeah.
you showed it to us in your picture on your banner
Oh, yes.
on the page.
Yes, there we go. Yeah, these
But
were all.
I love that. Yeah. I love that.
I mean, I've been in situations where, just my state is like, I want to punch her. I don't want your drink. I'm going to punch you.
Mhm.
Get away from me. I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to sort of surrender. I'm not ready to do those kinds of things, right? So I just think about myself attitudinally about when I'm there. It's like, not yet. I'm not yet. But I love this kind of, let's try to kind of rebalance this and try to bring a kind of peace.
And is that an angel in the upper left corner?
See, this deck has all of these little interesting kind of like sprites.
Yeah.
Oh, it's one of the little sprite people. I forgot
Yeah,
about
it's one of the What I love
And then
about
I know this may be a real stretch and I know that apples come in red and green, but I see a basket of, Denise, say something so I can see it again.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
So I see red and green apples there and red and green juice, which I assume is red apple, green apple.
So the red and green is very deliberate. It's part of the color scheme of the Temperance card, the esoteric color scheme. That's very deliberate.
Well, it's also in art. They are complementary colors on the color wheel.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to temper something, you want the complement, like you want to be complementary rather than the opposite of complementary.
Right.
So that
So
may
the
be a
green,
stretch
yeah.
pulling it into the color wheel, but I thought I'd do that. And
No,
but
I
my
think that's,
point,
I
Kurt,
think that's great.
Yeah,
I
I
think
love
that's
my
that.
wonderful.
point, Kurt, was that I get that in that card, there are red and green apples, and that's what that's supposed to be. But it's still, to me, I can pull it in to mean something else.
Well,
Well,
no, I
and
think
even
you
if there
mean, I think,
were,
yeah.
yeah, even if there were, what if it was all red apples, right? I mean, at this point, the deliberate selection to have red and green. And I think, and this is all, these are artist renderings, right? So artists are going to think about color in the way that I think you think about color, right? As an artist,
Right.
right? And so you're going to bring that additional that I might not necessarily, because I'm not technically an artist, that I might not necessarily catch. So I think that that's wonderful that you brought that up, because it says, yeah, okay, that's right. And that's how that's how those things can work as well, potentially. I love that. I like it.
I like that card too, because I have a colleague who, her only response to the election of Donald Trump was, for several weeks, she just baked cookies for her students. That's all she could do, was bring baked goods to class. Like that was her, that was how she dealt with it. That was how she tempered herself, right? That was how she, was by offering baked goods to students, you know.
The other
So
day, I tempered myself by eating lemon Oreo thins. Lemon
oh, those
flavored
are good.
Oreo thins.
Never heard of that.
They're vanilla, rather than the chocolate cookies. They're vanilla flavored cookies with a lemon filling. And I may have eaten many of them in order to temper myself at that moment. The self-soothing, right, that allows. So that baking, from just baking and sharing. I love it.
So I'll show this card because I don't think she got on the recording.
Mhm.
So this is Ganga. This is Temperance is Ganga, the goddess Ganga, or the river Ganga. And I'll read a paragraph from that. I mean, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'll read a paragraph here because I think it's apropos.
Mhm.
Ganga began as a headstrong and tempestuous divine energy, but she matured, was tempered into a goddess with a discriminated wisdom and discipline, ever ready to perform right, nourishing action. She flows from the Himalayas, the most potent spiritual place on earth, to the plains of India, sanctifying the entire country. The earth would have shattered with the impact of the divine energy without Shiva's interventions. Yogis say the Guru performs the same function for the unwary disciple. He controls the descent of the transforming energy into portions that they can assimilate. The internal river of energy flows smoothly, begins integration of the psyche and the transformation of consciousness. To achieve the flow in itself requires tremendous effort. Influx of divine energy stream is still an overwhelming experience, but now it merely stretches you instead of smashing you. For hope is never lost. There is no trail of sin so dense and impenetrable that the purifying waters of Ganga cannot clear up into the path of virtue and salvation. The waters of consciousness transform, changing the propensity to evil into a desire for good. Ganga is about the most astute and hopeful of psychological truths, a fresh start.
I love that.
So it's the fresh start after the death card, right? Because we've been through this just really tough experience that's challenged our everything, right? And the temperance is an opportunity for rebalancing, for healing, And we'll get into because the card is very much associated with healing as well as within the balancing, but yeah, that fresh start.
That's beautiful and hopeful. I love that.
And what I really like about this card is it's so much action going on. You know, it's temperance, but this card is a very, very active card.
Mhm.
You know, there's lots of motion in the painting,
Yeah.
you know. And actually, the story of Ganga, there's a lot of lack of patience on the part of other people with regard to Ganga. Like, she marries a king and she says to him, King Shantanu, the emperor of the world, and she says, well, fine, I'll marry you, but you have to you know, you can't question anything I do. The moment you question anything that I do, I will leave you. And so, to make a long story short, she drowns several of their newborn children. And finally, he can't take it anymore. So he stops her and she says, well, the reason that I'm drowning these children is because these are exalted divine beings who had to take birth in my womb. I'm drowning them so they can resume their, you know, true divine forms. You say, but you've questioned me, you've stopped me, so now I can't complete the drowning of this last child, so I'm going to take him and I'm going to leave, right? And so that last child then becomes Devavrata, who becomes Bhishma, who's like one of the major players in the Mahabharata epic. But you know, this idea of temperance demanding patience, you know, is also present with Ganga.
Well, and I think that there's that amount of patience we need in order to even do the action of temperance.
Mm.
Like, isn't that part of it? Patience?
Yeah. And part of it too, though, is we don't start out having patience, right? Nobody does.
No.
I
Okay.
mean, I can remember being, you know, a kid, and I'm still like this, you know, most of the time. You know, I can remember being a kid and going on a trip with my grandparents and asking my you know, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And my grandfather would say, 10 more miles, like every time, you know, every time it's 10 more miles, you know. So, but no, I mean, we don't start out, no, most of us do not start out knowing patience, right? Patience is
Okay.
something that's learned through practice, you know. Yeah. There's also a cathartic bitch session version of temperance too, and we'll get into that in the gallery. There is that version of temperance, because the goddess Bree, is associated with the temperance card. But we'll get to the. Do we want to look at the pictures now or no? Does anybody?
Yes.
Angel, did you share your deviant moon on the recording?
Oh, no, I don't think I did. It was earlier.
I don't think it was on the. Yeah, I don't think it was on the recording.
Mm-mm.
So there's the deviant moon tarot.
And it's actually very pretty, Angel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and look at the feminine lines, right?
Right.
And then the toe in the water.
Angel, say something.
Hi.
There you go. That's such a cool deck. It's a beautiful deck.
So then I have, this one didn't get on the recording either. I have one that I haven't looked at in a long time called the Neon Moon. And hold on.
Yeah, it's got the glare.
I'm trying.
There we go. There you go. You got it. Oh, look at that.
Okay, and instead of we talked about this before, instead of the water cups and water, she's got 6 arms
Uh-huh.
and her wings don't fit on the page.
Uh-uh.
1 foot water, 1 foot land.
Mhm.
Okay, and then I know you don't have this in there, Kurt, so I'm going to show this one because I happen to already had it pulled. The psychic tarot, which is very similar to the good tarot. I'm trying to find a way to not have this glare. I'm so sorry, you guys. I don't know what just happened, but it sounded like somebody was throwing something on my porch.
Oh,
So this is the psychic tarot, which is very much the reason I say it's like the good tarot, it's still not, is because the good tarot is also patience.
there's good. That's good. Yeah, okay. I see. Rather than temperance, or
Which is what we were just discussing. And then Kurt, did you put the true heart or no?
I don't have that one.
Okay, and so then that's the true heart.
okay.
Okay, and that's all I have to share.
Love it.
Did you put the good tarot, Kurt?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is more over here is more traditional Rider-Waite. We don't have the name of God in Hebrew on the garment like in Rider-Waite, but we have a lot of the other elements. The irises,
Mhm.
the water cups, the sun in the background, and this represents the and the emblem of the sun on his crown. It's the emblem of the sun, and then the light rays represent, ultimate divine is what this, and so the temperance card on the tree of life in the middle pillar, because temperance is essentially the idea of following the middle way, right? And so in the middle pillar, you have essentially the sixth sphere, Tippereth, which is beauty, to Yeshad, which is which I'm probably saying that wrong, but is foundation, right? So you have the and represent in this, in Yeshad is associated with the astral plane or the moon. So you have the water and you have the sun, and so this is the balance in between. And I don't, okay, good. I thought Nut was gonna mess up the screen, but she didn't. Okay. And this is Robin Wood. Some of the same elements, the sun emblem. She decided to have Temperance juggling 3 balls, gold, silver, and I believe iron. These are like the 3 aspects of the like the mind, the body, and the soul, kind of.
Gold, silver, and what?
I don't know what the third ball is. It says
Oh,
in the description, but I said iron, but it may not be iron. And I didn't look anything up on this. I just liked it, so I
what
put it
deck
in
is
here.
that, Kurt?
I don't know. It was in a sampler. It was a deck sampler.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah. But I like, it's very vibrant. I like, the rainbow. I mean, it's a very vibrant card.
Oh, Witch's Tarot.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna have to look at that Witch's Tarot.
So here we have the goddess Iris, like I said, is associated with she's like a female version of Mercury. She's Hera's messenger as opposed to Zeus's messenger, right? And she is associated with rainbows. Apparently she is the death card, as we remember from last week, was associated with the river Styx.
Mhm.
And so um apparently the gods are afraid of the river, like the river Styx literally means shudder, to shudder. And so the gods will make oaths on the river Styx. The goddess Iris is the one who oversees those oaths. So she's kind of transitioning out of that death card into something else.
Did you say, what are you saying when you use some word that starts with an O on the river Styx?
Oath.
Oath. I'm having a real hard time understanding some words. I apologize.
Okay.
Oath.
wonder if it's the-
OATH.
Correct. Yeah. So here's Rachel Pollack. Again, the giant wings. The energy flowing between the hands, the sun, the water. So this card is actually quite fascinating. It's from the Druid craft, and I don't know how to pronounce this. Fairleet, I don't know how to pronounce that, but what that is it's an alchemist. She's an alchemical druid priestess, specifically of the goddess Bree.
BRE.
And BRI, it basically in English, Bridget. She became Saint Bridget, but she's called Bree
Read.
in
We have a St. Bridget.
Breed in.
We
Yeah,
talked about this. We have a
in
St. Bridget's church.
yeah, we did. Yeah, which is quite fitting the way you described that location, right?
Oh yeah.
But so she's actually conducting alchemy here. So I thought that was cool. I did not know that in the Druidic tradition there were female Druid alchemists of breed. So that's really cool. So here, this is the Arthurian tarot. And what we have, this is an image of course, the triple goddess tending a cauldron. And a lot of the sources that this deck draws upon are really, really, really old. They're not, so like I'm somewhat familiar with Thomas Mallory and the more traditional, or I should say the more mainstream Arthurian legends. These are drawing upon much, much older sources. So apparently there's a story about Arthur searching out a magical cauldron, and this has to do with that. But again, the use of the triple god, the invocation of the triple goddess here speaks to the feminine aspect of temperance, and also and the use of the cauldron, and this this vagina image, or the cauldron image, that's going to come back when we get to when we start talking about the Kabbalistic esoteric stuff, when we get to those cards. But here we have Bree, or Breed, or Bridget, and she is let's see, she's a goddess of a lot of stuff. I read up on her a little bit. goddess of poetry, goddess of healing. I'm missing some stuff here. What else is she goddess of? She's goddess of a lot of stuff in Ireland, right? She's
Goddess
very,
of
very
the fire, goddess of the
yes, fire. That's it. That's it. That's
fire.
it. Yeah. So she represents that balance of fire and water aspects, right? Because she's fiery, but she's also tempering. She's also healing, right? And when I read up on this card and Bree, the breed aspect of temperance says it's okay to have a cathartic fuck you moment if the cathartic fuck you moment leads you to balance, right? She says that Bree says that you need to let your stuff you need to let what's eating you up out, right? That the healing, that the balancing takes place when that stuff is let out.
Mhm.
Um, so that's a slightly different take on temperance.
That's so,
Then again, this is the dark goddess.
well, yeah. I mean, yeah, and this
This is the
idea,
dark goddess deck. So
she's the goddess of the
yeah,
smith as well. And so when you're
Of what?
the smith, so when you're working with
I
iron,
can't understand the word you're saying. The goddess of what?
like the smith or the smithy, the
Can you spell it? S-M-I-T-H?
like Will Smith,
it's like
like Will
it's people
Smith.
who work with iron, like iron
Yeah,
work.
no, it's not that I don't understand. I can't hear the articulation
Oh,
today.
okay.
Like
Okay.
things are garbled sounding to me today on here.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's probably me. I'm all garbled.
So Smith, like blacksmith.
Yeah, blacksmith. Yeah.
Okay.
And the use of, hot, fire and water when you're working on any of that. And I
Right.
think it's so interesting because with alchemy, it's that transformation, right? It's that transforming energy. And literally what's one of the phrases that's used, finding the gold within the shit is one of the terms that's used, or the ideas that's used in alchemy. And so I guess in a way, the shit that comes out, that sort of explosion, and I don't mean, I mean this sort of like, if there's something there and you need to let that out, you let it out, and that there is, I guess, a transformation then that can occur that's alchemical that will allow you then to begin the healing. I was just trying to make sense of it in terms of what you had just shared, Kurt, how to let it out and how Breed would say let it out. But
And in that same way, can we look at the blacksmithing and the burn, like, it even talked in the Bible about being burnished in the fire.
mhm.
So would that be the temperance card where we're being burnished
Yes.
in the fire, but to become our purest, finest selves?
I think so. When you start playing around with the fire, you start thinking about it in those terms. I think that would be appropriate. Oscar, calm down. He's in the back there. I don't know. He's running back and forth on the sofa and doesn't have very far to go. He just came in from outside. Sorry, guys. So if I put mute on, that's because he's getting loud with his toys.
Kurt, are you going to need me to open the book on this Shadowscapes like we always do? Should we continue that? I've got it.
If you want to read what
Temperance, Wheel of Fortune, Justice, Death. Okay, here we are. She gathers herself, she reaches within for the calm center, that place of balance. From her center, she feels the dragon and phoenix stirring.
Mm.
They embrace in a sinuous twisting of scale and feather until it seems that one melts into the other. They coil around each other in a timeless battle for supremacy. choreographed in an elegant waltz of give and take, push and pull. They swirl about her in a maelstrom that assaults the senses. Like a maestro, she watches over and reins in one or the other when she senses any imbalance so that harmony is maintained. Earth and sky, fire and water, male and female, the warmth and lush growth of summer and the chill winds of winter bearing down. These opposites flow one into the other in a cyclical and endless push of yin and yang. They are perfectly balanced against one another. In fact, they are given purpose and definition by the existence of their diametric opposite. Without water, fire rages utterly unchecked and all-consuming, burning itself out eventually in a terrible conflagration. And without
Conflagration.
the waters are lightless and drowning, flooding until there is only a still and silent mirror of nothing. By defining limits, they both are imbued with life and become life-giving, tempered to coexist with just the right balance, for too much of one and the other will be smothered. Meaning harmony and equilibrium, balancing of opposites, healing, moderation of extremes, self-restraint, harnessing absolute forces, and reining them in to be wielded to a purpose. Holding opposites apart from one another denies their power of unity. By drawing them together to merge in a measured fashion and understanding what one bestows upon the other, a beautiful synthesis can be created. Sometimes all that holds the two apart is a wall of belief. Being flexible and understanding that there is more than one way to perceive the world can go a long way toward breaking down that invisible wall. And then she goes on in her sketchbook to talk about, in China, the dragon and the phoenix are the epitome of male and female. Phoenix being female, male being dragon. Both of them are mythical entities, a fantastic melding of various creatures into one being. The phoenix possesses the beak of a rooster, the neck of a snake, the tail of a peacock, and the legs of a crane. The dragon has the claws of an eagle, the body of a snake, the head of a lion, the crown of a stag. All of these attributes are encapsulated by their singularly unique forms, each in their way that is a mirror of the concepts of temperance. The mingling of extreme opposites in a stable and balanced equilibrium, not necessarily the mixture of the two, for that would be submerging of the identities and qualities of each. The richness of black and the purity of white need not be turned into a meaningless neutral gray fog to achieve unity. Rather, a careful integration of the two can create a beauty in pattern and flow. Like the balance of a carefully plotted black and white ink drawing, the purpose of temperance is to maintain that which is unique while holding in check enough to coexist in balance. Opposite thoughts, juxtaposition of the spirit dragon and the phoenix with the more material ones of flesh and blood and stone. And within that pairing, even a contrast of cold marble against a living, breathing creature. So I was looking for the stag crown on him and everything she was talking about. Am I missing that? Seeing that in there?
I am not sure. Does anybody else see it?
I'm not seeing everything she referred to.
Trying to make it
Oh, I
bigger.
see the claws like an eagle, kind of.
Yeah, I can't see a stag crown.
Tail of a peacock. Yeah, I don't see all of that. Maybe unless that was just what she was talking about in her studies to get there.
Yeah, she made it. That may be.
And then I like how in the sphere that she's holding, you see that yin and yang of the color of both.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering curiously, because she doesn't allude to this, but do you see that little, y'all see that little like creature thing at the bottom left with the bird sitting on it?
Mm-hmm.
It has like all these little jewelry things hanging from it, like almost like it's, I want to say offering them to her, sort of, kind of. Do you
Yeah.
see all those things hanging from it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is. Interesting. Okay.
So here we have our revelations with the reversed and the upright in the same image.
Wow. So I'm looking
And so you
in
can
that
see how there's,
reverse. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. As I was going to say, you can see it in the reverse how chaotic it is.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. So it's where the face is supposed to be. It's scribbledy scrabbles.
Oh yeah, that's
And
true.
that's, remind me to tell you about that later.
Well,
And you
you're
see the
right.
cauldron, what's coming out of the cauldron upright is very ordered and balanced, and what's coming out reversed is balanced, but it's very bubbling, like when the pot boils over on the stove
Mhm.
kind of look.
Yeah.
So I'm
And then
curious,
this one,
Kurt, you were talking about Sagittarius. Why does this say full moon cycle of Pisces?
so this is Egyptian astrology, which is a little bit, I mean, the attributions are different. So in Egyptian astrology, Pisces is the full moon in Pisces is associated with Isis. And this, of course, this is Isis.
Mm,
And is it because
Um,
their astrology hits different dates or what?
I am not sure, but they have a different system. It's not the traditional Western system.
Okay, this is the second card
And
I've
it's not,
seen a snake in too.
yeah, and I'm not entirely sure why, other than, you know, the snake representing transformation.
Oh,
The
okay.
snake representing, snake can also represent immortality. Can also represent feminine, can either represent feminine or masculine energy, depending on how you read it. She's got dolphins here. That's kind of. Then we have patience for the good tarot.
Yeah, and I notice all the clocks in that one.
Oh, back down.
All the clock faces.
Mm-hmm.
Divine timing, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, yeah.
Patience, you know, in divine timing.
Mm-hmm. and that whole concept of waiting on God kind of thing,
Mhm.
um and it's and from my own experience, when and this is pretty much a constant experience, is when I try to do things in my time, uh or according to my very limited vision, I usually get myself into some significant trouble, and usually end up hurting myself or somebody else, or all parties involved in one way or other. So, you know, um,
Hmm.
so again, the idea is knowing when to let loose that arrow.
Mhm.
You know, we can have the arrow pulled back for a long time, but it's knowing when to release it. That.
It's a beautiful card.
And here we go.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Here we go. So
Wow.
remember, I said the red and green was very deliberate in
Mhm.
the
Yes.
card that Denise showed us. So this is, yeah. Um, these are alchemical colors associated with all that. And here you have the fire and water and the yin and yang again.
Mhm.
Can you say that again on the
And in this,
alchemical colors? Like, was there,
so they're
did I,
alchemical, and
is there some meaning that
the
I'm not aware of?
the red and the green. Yeah, the lion is supposed to be, it gets very, very complicated. I'd have to look it up and read you the whole thing, which gets
Oh,
very
it's okay.
complicated. But if I can, the lion is like a major alchemical symbol. Um,
This is a griffin.
but what she does here is she makes the Orphic egg, which is again one of her themes for the Rosetta deck. She makes the Orphic egg into a cauldron. So we've had the cauldron before, and this is a yin and yang, which we saw with shadowscapes, and we have the balance of the fire and the water,
Right.
and she's actually putting the arrow into the cauldron, which is very much reminiscent of sex on purpose,
Mhm.
because well, first of all, this is um, Diana this is Artemis and Apollo intertwined as the same being. Um, and you have because Artemis being related to the moon and Apollo being related to the sun, so it's that balance. And you have both of their instruments being instruments and tools being represented here. Um, um, and then on the rainbow, you have the word rectification, which is the idea of and I just thought of this, that it gets into that tikkun ulam idea, the idea of repairing what's broken, which is according to Judaism, according to rabbinic Judaism, that is the purpose of human life, right? We as human beings are supposed to repair what's broken. We're supposed to aid God in repairing what is broken. Um, and so the temperance is very much about that, particularly after coming after the death card. But so, and Pollock talks about this, and M.M. Moline talks about this, and in her the descriptions of her decks, but also in her book, the Tarot Deciphered. So you have the angel in the lovers, and you have the angel typically pictured in the in Temperance. Now on her decks, you've got the animals pictured in both, and so that's how they're making the connection. But so with the angels, the idea is that the culmination of the lovers, right? In other words, the So in the Lovers card, typically the lovers are not haven't consummated their union yet. The consummation of the union actually occurs in Temperance, right?
Oh, really?
It's the balance. It's the balance. It's the balancing of the energies, right? It's the balancing of the energies. So the Lovers represents Gemini, or it corresponds to Gemini, and so you have the two. The Sagittarius is the so basically Sagittarius, and in one source it does actually talk about, well, no, it actually, that's something else I read today, not a tarot thing, but basically the Sagittarius, one way to look at that bowstring is it's the moment right before orgasm, right? It's the buildup right before orgasm.
Bowstring. Okay, bowstring.
Yeah, that pulled back bowstring.
I keep hearing you say bolstering. I'm sorry.
No, and in fact, if you look here, this is even more suggestive, because the rainbow in on the art card in Tabula Mundi actually looks like a vagina, right? So you've got, and the sun is the sun and the egg are the clitoris, right? And she's about to shoot the arrow. She's got her bowstring pulled back. But this is really awesome. Like, you've got the water here, you got the fire. This is just a really dynamic, and she's got the angel's wings, but she's also got the tail of the alchemical, the lion. And so I wanted to talk about this, the Hebrew letter, Skemet, I think is how it's said, and I know I'm probably mispronouncing it. And if somebody Jewish is watching this, they're probably bristling at that. But the idea is that it's one of the only closed letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and the physical rendering, the literal meaning of the letter is support. It can also be translated as tent peg. In some places, it's translated as anger. But M.M. Moline makes the argument that it is a vagina image. That this image is very much a feminine / vagina image. So you get, but again, I love this because of how dynamic it is and everything that's going on. And again, when we have it blown up like this, we can really see so much going on. And then over here with the golden flower from the chrysalis. So this card, they actually, in the text that goes with the card, they actually advise using it as a mandala and using it as a meditation tool.
I'm just curious if the fish in it are representative of that Egyptian Pisces astrology.
I don't think on purpose, but I mean,
Okay.
we could draw that conclusion. Yeah.
But symbolic of
The
water.
butterfly, of course, is representative of the psyche. So, and I don't remember what they said the fish was, but it wasn't. But interestingly, these are these urns here. They're supposed to contain genies, is the idea.
Oh.
So again, it's right before the genie has not been let out of the bottle yet. It's before we let the genie out of the bottle. But, and apparently there is a sunflower. This is kind of off topic, but kind of not. There's a sunflower festival in San Antonio, or hereabouts, next month. So yeah.
Where is it at?
Yeah, and I have I don't know, but I have a dear witchy friend of mine that I've known for 20 years, who's an amazing goddess of a person, who who really wants to come to it, and it was supposed to be in May, but they changed it up. And but anyway, so I probably, if indeed it happens, I'll probably end up going to it.
It's a sunflower
Um,
festival.
Sunflower Festival. I'll look it up. I'll ask my friend and see if she can send me a link to it.
I'm looking it up now.
I hope it's around. If it's around the summer solstice, I'll try to celebrate the summer solstice with my friend and do the Sunflower Festival, because that would be cool. But
I'm looking for it. Oh, let's see.
I'm sure it's on Facebook.
Yeah, it is.
yeah, it is on Facebook.
I really like how you put Light Seers in the middle of Book of Shadows.
Well, I didn't intend to do this, but it was the balance. It was to balance the page, so that's kind of funny.
Uh-huh.
It just
But
looks
we're
really
talking about balance.
interesting.
It does.
Yeah, we're talking about balance, and I put him in the middle to balance the
And
page.
Well, and the
dude,
balance, the colors and everything. I think that was.
Yeah,
his eyes
yeah.
are freaking amazing.
Yes.
Like that's hot.
So it's interesting that Book of Shadows associates Temperance with Ostara, and I understand why they do, because they associate death with Yule, which we saw last week, and so Ostara would be the progression from there.
The resurrection or whatnot, right?
Yeah, in the
The
but
rebirth.
we're in two other decks that we've already seen, in the Druidcraft and in the Dark Goddess with Breed, both actually, and we haven't seen Wildwood yet, but all of those associate Temperance with Beltane.
Oh,
Very,
interesting.
very strongly. But especially Wildwood, and we'll see that in a minute. But here we've got it associated with Ostara, and I really like how the rainbow is coloring the eggs.
Yes.
That's cool.
And check out all the I'm seeing fireflies.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And so we do have the water and the fireflies.
And that's a rabbit in the shadows right there,
I believe
right there.
so, yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
I
up in
believe
her
so.
arm.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
her face
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
like that of the Fae, actually.
You're right. That is not a human face. Yeah. Not
And I would
entirely
say
human.
that the world of the Fae people, they're much more balanced than we stupid humans.
Or much more aware of shifting a balance, certainly. Yeah. Now I love this. This is the first time I really looked at this up close. He's literally balancing the sun and the moon, which is what
Yep.
the Temperance card's all about.
Right.
And look at his tattoo on his chest.
Yeah, he's got the triangle as a tattoo, which is cool. That is just a really cool deck.
It's a beautiful deck. Neat stuff.
And we can't argue with this. I mean, this is Temperance as celebration, which is kind of an interesting way to look at it.
Well, there's also, I was just looking at it as a very like, I guess I'll just come right out, like balance in that relationship there.
Yeah. And
like a lot of calm, quiet. I mean, things are good.
And it's very much, I mean, we could even go esoteric. I mean, the so below is not deliberately esoteric, but we could even go very esoteric on this because temperance is literally associated with adding water to wine. And so if we take the whole water and wine thing, we have the Lord's table, like the whole idea of communion, and we basically have this couple in the sacredness of the joy of their relationship. They're engaged in this divine communion, and they
Breaking
have
of
all this
bread,
food
yeah.
that they're enjoying. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I like that. I
Beautiful.
think that's
So
great.
balanced. I mean,
Yeah,
the table is balanced. They both have
yeah.
a piece of pie and they have a plate of food and wine glasses
Mhm.
And in the center of all of that is lit a white candle.
Mhm.
Is a white
So
candle.
in
Yeah.
order to keep
Yeah.
that like unto God, that connection with the divine, I mean, I always light a white candle for that connection. So that's beautiful
That's
there.
awesome. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. I really like this. Um, my favorite devil card is in this deck. Is in the sub below. It just we'll see it next week or whenever we meet next time. Now I love this one. I love the counterculture. This is Temperance from the Counterculture Tarot because
Mm.
it's. I mean, and you got to, and this is perfect because how much courage do these people have to have here to just sit there and be nonviolent like that? It's like I was a judge of a history kind of skit contest for high school students couple years pre-COVID, right? And I kind of tore them a new one because they implied that like a bunch of kids just decided, hey, we're going to go sit at a lunch counter and protest the lunch counter laws. That is not how that happened at all. Those kids trained for months to do that. They got screamed every racial epithet in the world at them. They got stuff thrown at them and stuff by the people that were training them, so that when they were actually out doing it, they would be able to look as though they were serene and nonviolent, but in fact in their hearts they were they were enacting that practice that they had practiced for months and months and months. you know so and but I love this, literally stormtroopers, because this is the basis for the Star Wars stormtrooper right here,
Right.
and they're, yeah.
Does it give a reference to where
And
these?
here,
I'm just
I
curious.
don't know because I didn't. I mean, I'm thinking Kent State or
That's
somewhere
what
like
I'm
that.
Kent State.
Yeah, I'm thinking Kent State because a lot of these photos. Well, I think all the photos in this are public domain, but I think the person who did the counterculture tarot was very deliberate in the photos that he chose. But I'm thinking Kent State. If it's not, it's meant to, evoke that. Um, and of course, if it is Kent State, we know what happens next, right? They get, I mean, it's terrible. The anniversary of that actually was just really recently.
And what are you
Um,
saying? Penn State, Penn?
Kent State, Ken
Kent,
with a K.
Can you
K-E-N.
spell
Kent,
it?
Kent State, Kent, right?
Like Clark Kent.
Like
Okay.
Clark Kent. Yeah.
Apparently, I don't know what
Yeah.
you're referring to.
Vietnam
So there
War
was a protest, and
Is it like a
basically
university?
Yes, in Ohio.
yeah.
It's in Kent, Ohio.
Got it.
And so there was a protest, anti-war protest, and essentially the National Guard, was it the National Guard, came in and killed some kids, killed
Kids.
some
Oh my God.
protesters. I mean, kids like
College.
your daughter's age.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrible.
Yeah,
Those are
college
kids.
students. Yeah, right,
They are
right. Yeah,
kids.
exactly.
They're 18 and 19 years
Yeah,
old. Barely.
yeah, yeah. But, they're sitting here probably terrified out of their minds, but they're sitting here peacefully, you know.
Ew.
And then here we have the wildwood with your red dragon and your
Yeah.
blue dragon, your balance, um, going up the tree, indicative of the maypole,
No.
specifically. And we, as with all, pretty much all the wildwood cards that we've seen, we have the face in the tree.
Mhm.
And what do we think of the face in the tree?
I don't know. I mean, I when I read up on this particular card, it didn't say. I think the whole idea is that the trees have conscious. That we're supposed to be reminded that the trees have consciousness. That the trees are conscious.
Yes.
And then I did not read up on this at all, but I like the image, so I
Mhm.
included it.
Lots of spirals.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And then is that a goose?
That's a
Swan.
Swan.
swan. That's what. Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure there's a myth. Like I'm sure there's something behind that. I just didn't read into it at all. I thought it was
Swan.
a very nice.
And she's in the water and it appears
Yeah,
as if her hands are on the land, but then her left hand is actually in the water while her right hand is on the land, because on the land there's water too.
yeah.
But all of these spirals are just so interesting. It's almost like walking, like how I created my garden in a spiral
Uh-huh.
to walk the labyrinth as a meditation. It's almost like as if that's taking you to that place of
Yes.
balance.
And that is
Ghosts
yeah,
and spirits tarot.
tarot. Yeah. I don't know anything about it. I just really like the image, so I put it on there. And then finally
Oh
we
my
have
God, what is this one on the left?
the Star Wars tarot.
Are you
and
freaking kidding me?
So
Are you
it's
freaking,
not,
is that what's his name and what's her name?
Uh-huh.
yes,
Oh
yes,
my, I'm sorry, you guys, I forget myself.
it's Whiny Man and
Shut
Ray.
up,
Yes.
Kylo
Yes.
Ren.
Kylo Ren, the whiniest
I dressed up as her
whiniest
for
character in
Halloween
the
one year.
So I used to think that Aiden Christensen was bad as Anakin, and then his grandson came about, and
Oh, I love Adam
but
Driver.
Adam Driver is a fantastic actor. Just Kylo Ren is a terrible character. Adam Driver is an amazing actor.
Star Wars Tarot, is that what this is called?
Yes, and the thing is it's not official. Like several people, because Star Wars fans, right?
Is it
Several
on
people have
Amazon?
No. That's what I'm telling you. Several people have created their own Star Wars decks and put the cards on like Pinterest and stuff. The images.
I want that
so
deck. I like that deck.
So if you Google it, so I Googled Star Wars Tarot Temperance, and this is the best one that came up. So I liked it because it is the balance, right? It's and I just noticed her cup is overflowing and his cup is emptying.
Yeah.
Right? They both have cups.
Mhm.
And
Oh.
she's the one that and it's interesting that at the end of the whole thing, the whole I don't want to give away if you haven't seen the last movie, right? Has everybody seen the last movie? at the end, and a lot of people hated the last movie. I didn't, because I thought it was her whole thing is when she calls herself Skywalker at the end, even though she's not um like ethnically a Skywalker, I guess, when she claims the Skywalker name, that's her that's the alchemy, right? That's the alchemy when she claims the Skywalker name. And she becomes the least whiny Skywalker ever, except maybe Leia.
Hmm.
It's like her and Leia are the best of the Skywalkers.
So this
Um,
card was available on Etsy. I don't know if it'll be available on Etsy again. It was sold by the artist.
This
it
particular
was?
deck,
Yeah, because I went and I found the pin, the Pinterest pin.
so it's
Holy
by
crap.
Elithian. Elethian.
I don't know. Like,
Oh
it
man.
says, email me when they're back. And they're saying, nope, it's not found. It's an old pin. I don't know when it was originally. Let's do star.
Yeah, I don't
Oh
know.
my God, I am
don't
in
know.
love with this deck, y'all.
And all the cards for this that I've seen are like this. I mean, they're done in the
Yes,
same
I'm looking
style.
at them right now.
Yeah.
Temperance, Kylo, Star Wars, Temperance, Elethian, Elithian.
And there's a Star Trek deck that is being produced also.
Oh
Kind of
God,
on the
oh
fly, but
God, you're killing me. By the same.
there's a couple of Star. No, not by the same artist. No.
Remind me to tell you
There's a couple.
something. Oh, y'all, I'm in love. I'm sorry.
That's a beautiful card. I love it. I think
Yeah, it is.
beautifully.
It is.
Well, and that just
Yeah,
particularly has a lot of meaning for me in like a plethora of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
I mean, but the whole third movie cycle was so easy to predict. I knew that in that first movie, either Leia or Han had to die, because it's Joseph Campbell. I mean, it's the hero's journey, and that's a part, that, and it's very
You knew
Jungian.
that when you
And
were a little
I knew
kid?
that either. No, I'm talking about no, like the last three movies. The later ones, the
They were predicting.
yeah, the very. It would have been better if they would have had the two dudes make out that everybody was saying was gay. Like, it would have been cool if they had them do gay things on screen, like,
So Redbubble
but
is apparently you can find this print on Redbubble.
Redbubble.
Yeah, it's a Temperance tarot art print. I'll send it to you guys.
But not the deck, just the print
the
of the
print.
card, right?
Yeah.
And then we have, and I didn't read up on this, but I'm assuming the reason why they chose zebra for Temperance is just because the balance of black and white stripes, which I think is cute,
Well, and you notice there aren't any gray stripes. It's black and white, just like they talked about in Shadowscapes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And spirals too, but we always have a lot of spirals in the what's the name of this deck? Spirit Song. We have a lot of spirals in Spirit Song, but we have spirals here, crystals. I do like this Star Wars card though. Yeah, this is.
Y'all are just, you don't understand how I love that.
I am an Adam Driver fan. I thought that I thought he was great in Girls.
I don't know that I've seen that. Girls?
He played. Yeah, he played the boyfriend in Girls, and okay. uh, I'm gonna stop there. And we're stopping the recording because we're at the end of our, does anybody else have
Is that our last
anybody
card?
else have anything? Yeah, this is our last card. Does anybody else
All
have
right.
anything we want to say about temperance
No.
to close out?
Peace out.
I think we lost Angel. Maybe she had to go.
Yeah, and she tried to get on and off a couple of times. Maybe she'll jump back on or
Okay. Or maybe
whatever.
it's almost 10.
Okay, the reason I wanted to stop the recording, okay,
It's still
'cause I have to say
recording.
this,
It's
and I didn't
still
want it to-
recording.
It's still
Oh,
recording.
it is. I pressed stop. Okay, hold on. Okay, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Stop.
Bye.